Hi, this is Tom T. Moore, and welcome to my telepathic world where you'll hear a different perspective on the universe we live in. Today we're going to talk about tools for your toolbox. The first tool I'm going to talk about is astrology. And let me tell you a little story about astrology and my introduction to it. Back in about 1968 or 69, I had a small tour company that I was running, and one day in the Dallas Morning News in the B section, they had a story about an astrologer in Dallas whose hobby was the Dallas Cowboys. And he was predicting that the Dallas Cowboys would not go to the Super Bowl that year, but they would go the following year, and he gave 10 reasons why they wouldn't go. And I'd never seen anything like that. All I'd seen were those little astrology forecasts daily in the newspaper. And so I tore the article out, I put it in my desk. At the end of the football season, keep in mind the Dallas Cowboys had never gone to a Super Bowl at that time, the guy had hit on about 80% of the reasons why they did not make it to the Super Bowl that year. So I said, I don't know how this works, but I reserved 300 seats to Miami on Braniff Airlines a year in advance. And I became the very first tour operator in Dallas to ever run a trip to the Super Bowl. So after that, I said, I need to learn a little bit more about this. And so I started having my ski club parties, which this was a snow ski club, and I'd have them on nights like Venus trines Mars or the moon or sextile and so on. And the club grew. Of course, the money I made off of the Super Bowl was enough to start a travel agency, and eventually it morphed into an international wholesale tour company with 3,000 travel agents selling our tours nationwide. So that, and we eventually sold that company in 1981. Now we move forward to 1979. Oh, and before I get into to 1979, I'll mention numerology is another way for you to learn more about yourself. I had my numerological chart done in Sedona. The guy stood up and bowed to me and said, he said, I salute you. And I thought that was part of his spiel. And he said, you're a spiritual master and a material master. It seemed my soul path was a 33 and my name was a 44. So there are things that you can learn from numerology, your soul path. Then in 1979, I started recording my dreams. Well, about 2 weeks after I started recording my dreams, I had a very, very vivid dream about a lady and several men and an explosion. Well, at that time, my wife and I were scheduled to go to a World Congress of Travel Agents in Manila. And this was such a striking dream that we canceled our trip to Manila but added on days to Hong Kong and Taipei. The very first day of the Congress, terrorists blew up a bomb towards the front of the hall, which is where I like to sit. And it injured 10 travel agents. It turned out that a woman working in the LA tourism office for the Philippines and 4 men were arrested for the bombing. So after that I said, I'm going to record my dreams for the rest of my life, and I have. And I highly recommend that you record them too. Since that time I've had many precognitive dreams, such as in the mid-80s when the Delta Airlines DC-10 crashed in at the DFW airport. I had a dream about a Delta-shaped aircraft crashing a week or two before. And when the space shuttle crashed, I had a dream about being high up in the air in a glass capsule and suddenly beneath the ocean. And then before 9/11, I had 3 dreams. I had one dream of a biplane crashing, signifying two wings. I had another dream of a jet crashing to not too far from Chicago. And the last dream I had was one of the weirdest dreams I've ever had in my whole life. And that was when I saw a tornado, and tornadoes always, I hate having tornado dreams because there's something not too good that's coming along, and I'll say an MBO for it, which I'll talk about later. And a tornado passed in front of an office building, and there was this line of people sitting there in invisible chairs that went along the face of that building too. So you can really get a lot out of your dreams. Your dreams are messages from your soul, and one of these episodes will probably take up dreams much more thoroughly than we will today. So another thing that I like to do, another tool, is that you say, if someone asks you, well, how old are you? And you say, I'm ageless. And believe it or not, if you say that every time that someone asks you your age, you will get to a point where you will not remember your actual age. You'll have to count up on your fingers like I've done in the past sometimes. And you really are telling your cells and all that you wish to remain ageless, and it slows down your aging clock. So that's another tool for your toolbox. A simple yet powerful tool I'm going to cover now. This is the most simple tool that you could ever use the rest of your life, but it is so powerful. And that is requesting benevolent outcomes in your life. It gives your life less stress, less fear, and more success. So it's very, very important. This is a modality that you can use, and it is so much more than I originally knew when I started using it, when I started experimenting with it. So it can help you with your ascension or raising your vibrational level, which I prefer to use. So this is something you really should consider very, very seriously in order to use the rest of your life. I was reading a Sedona Journal of Emergence one day, and this is a magazine that you can get on a book stand or find online, and it has metaphysical stories in the magazine. And one of the articles was by a gentleman by the name of Robert Shapiro, and he was channeling a being by the name of Zosh. And Zosh happened to say, he said, you can request benevolent outcomes in your life. And I thought, gosh, that's kind of interesting. Never heard of that, because I'd tried all these other things like the law of attraction, and that didn't work. For years, when I was in the travel business, and then eventually in the international film and TV program distribution business, I would have a picture of a jet plane, a private jet plane, on my desk behind me in the credenza, thinking, if I visualize that long enough, if I have enough money to buy a private plane, then I will be a success in these businesses. Never happened. Wasn't on my soul contract, as we'll get into later. So I started experimenting with requesting benevolent outcomes, and I started playing around with how to say it, and I eventually came up with, and I think I was inspired to do this because if you'll notice, there are no beings, deities mentioned in this. I would say I request a most benevolent outcome for. So, and you can request a benevolent outcome for anything. So you say, I request a most benevolent outcome for my drive to work today, and or I request a most benevolent outcome for a seat on the bus or a seat on the subway. Thank you. You always say thank you, and you can believe that this request goes anywhere that you wish it to go. I personally believe it goes to my guardian angel, because I feel that my guardian angel, as I've learned over the years, is a filter and knows what's good for me and can see around the corner to know about whether the MBO request is good for me and good for everyone else. So you start with the mundane requests, and even though whether you believe the request is going to Jesus, God, Muhammad, Allah, a Hindu deity, whomever you happen to believe, that's fine, because it works, and it works perfectly, and I've never been able to say that about any other modality. So, you start with the mundane request, like I mentioned the bus or driving to work, and those are requests that you can do that you get immediate feedback, and that's what you need, because you need to build up trust in this. So you want to build up trust that this modality works, and by doing these mundane requests, it builds up your trust. And I know at first I had some people say, oh, but my guardian angel probably is too busy. No, your guardian angel loves you, and your guardian angel will give you these requests out of love. And that's what benevolent means, is giving something in love. So start requesting these mundane type requests, and you can expand out. Now, we can get into a little bit of the rules, and then I can give you some sample MBOs. First rule, you must request the assistance, okay? You have to request the assistance. Otherwise, your guardian angel has been told to leave you alone, more or less, let you live your life, and only come to your aid if, as an example, you're in danger of losing your life and you're at a stage where you're not supposed to die. So that's the very first one. You have to request the assistance. And it must be, number two, it must be benevolent for you, but also for everyone else involved in the request. So as an example, let's say you're a soldier in some war, and you say, I request the most benevolent outcome to kill my enemy before he kills me. Nope, nope, nope. That will not work. It's not benevolent for everyone. But if you say, I request the most benevolent outcome for coming back from this patrol safely, or I request the most benevolent outcome for my drive in this Jeep or this truck or Humvee or whatever from point A to point B, then fine. Maybe the enemy, as you call him or her, takes a break, goes to lunch or dinner, or for some other reason is not around when you pass by that point where they were. So that becomes a benevolent outcome for everyone. Number three, it must be a request for you specifically, okay? It must be a request for you specifically. Asking for benevolent outcomes is what you do for everyone else, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, it must be said out loud or in writing is number four. Out loud or in writing. So it really, the more emotion that you can put into this, the stronger it becomes, because these verbal requests are very, very strong. Scientists have not gotten to the point where they understand how strong verbal requests are. Okay, they become a strong way. Now, if you can't speak, then write it at least. It has to be some type of physical action. So be sure to say it out loud or in writing. There's no limit on the number of times that you can request benevolent outcomes. No limit on the number of times you can request. That's very important. I visualize the stack of forms on my desk that are 2 feet high, and I tear off one of the forms and it says, I request a most benevolent outcome for, and there's a blank, and I fill in the blank, and at the end it says thank you. But the stack never goes down. So you can request thousands. I've requested at least 15 or 18,000 MBOs. I have no earthly idea because I've done so many thousand over the years. I didn't start counting them 1, 2, 3. Now, the sixth rule is trust in the process. Start with the mundane request, like I mentioned, to build up your trust and make it a habit. And that's very important. It has to be made a habit, because at first it's going to be hard to remember to request these things. And so I'll get into a little bit about signs and everything in a minute, but there are signs you can download from my website that says request benevolent outcomes today. The next thing is the radiant effect. I found in requesting benevolent outcomes that it seems to have a radiant effect that affects the people around me. So as an example, if there are other people in the car with me that are driving, then it seems to take care of them and even the other cars on the other sides of us, so that it's just like this radiant bubble that goes along with you when you're requesting a benevolent outcome. So keep that in mind. It has a radiant effect that affects other people in a benevolent way. Now, I'm going to take up benevolent prayers for a minute. Benevolent prayer, as I told you before, is something that you say for other people. Okay? And in my first book, which was called The General Way, A Self-Help Guide for Those Who Believe in Angels, I called it Living Prayers. And also, these living prayers were worded about 20 or 30 different ways. So I kept thinking about it. How can I make this more simple for everyone to say a benevolent prayer? And I believe I was inspired to present it this way. You say, I ask any and all beings, thank you. So again, you know, we're not saying any particular deity. You can if you want to, but these are simple prayers that anyone of any faith, and that's very important. You can have a group of people of any faith say a benevolent prayer together, and what's amazing is that the number of people saying it, the effect of it is much greater than this number of people that say the prayer. So if you can imagine, if you have 100 people or 1,000 people saying exactly the same prayer, this verbal energy that is created becomes extremely powerful, and you can literally move hurricanes or change people's views on politics and things like that if it's benevolent for everyone in the request. So you can say, I ask any and all beings to come to the aid and comfort of the people that were injured or lost their homes or starving or whatever after the earthquake that just happened in Pakistan, as an example. Thank you. And if you have everyone say that, all your Facebook friends and all and all the people that you deal with, or if you attend a church, synagogue, temple, whatever, if you have everyone say that same prayer together, that energy from that 200 or 300 or 500 people becomes very, very great. And it's a great way to affect our world in a benevolent way. So please keep that in mind and start saying benevolent prayers, or as I call them, BPs. So far you've got MBOs and you have BPs, which are benevolent prayers. I use the acronyms on these all the times because they're so long to write. Let's go back and discuss some other sample MBO requests that you can do. As an example, you can request a most benevolent outcome for the perfect job, all right? And you say, I request a most benevolent outcome for the perfect job for me. thank you, and release it. Because keep in mind, that perfect job, someone else may be in that perfect job, and they have to be promoted, or they have to leave the company, or something has to happen before that happens for you to get that perfect job. Or maybe the perfect job will come along after you have an interim job that will prepare you for that perfect job. So request the perfect job and then just release it and see what happens. And you start seeing the machinations that come together to give you that perfect job. You can also request a most benevolent outcome for the perfect mate for you. Okay? Again, now this is something that you have to be patient. That's why I tell you to do these mundane requests. Because the first times that you request these, request a mate, maybe that future mate is involved in a relationship with someone else that has the end. Or maybe you have to have a relationship that sets you up to have the next relationship. So you have to be patient, but start watching those machinations come about to give you that perfect mate. Now you can do the same thing for the perfect home. My wife and I were starting to look for a new home. We wanted to downsize. We didn't want to have to keep a large house anymore, and so we started looking. And so I started requesting a benevolent outcome. Each time my wife would take me to another house to look at, I'd say, I request the most benevolent outcome for this to be the house, knowing that my guardian angel would not let that happen. And so we even made an offer on one house, and someone paid the full price, and we'd only offered like 5% less than that, but someone offered the full price, and we didn't get that. And so finally I said, okay, I request the most benevolent outcome for the perfect house for us. Thank you. And the next day she found it. It was the perfect house. So you can request the perfect house for you, and then release. You can also use it for identity theft. You could say, I request a most benevolent outcome that my identity, all its forms, be protected now and forever. Thank you. So your identity is protected. Traveling. I mentioned the drive to work, to the airport, even through security. One of my friends, when I first had written the very first book, sent in one that I'd never thought of before. He said, when I got up to the front of where security was to look at my identification and ticket, they suddenly opened up a whole lane, and I was the very first person through that lane. So there you go. You can have secure for your flight, for your baggage to get there. You could try to have a request for your baggage to be first up on the carousel. That can or cannot work sometimes. And you can request a benevolent outcome at work, for your meetings, and even for abuse. If you're suffering physical or mental abuse, you can request a benevolent outcome before you have to talk to the head of a department or someone that is high up that you need to request a benevolent outcome for it to be in your favor. And you can also request benevolent outcomes for different kinds of games of chance. That's gambling. So that's I found that lots of money coming in, whether it be from a lottery ticket or whatever it happens to be, is a soul contract. And so sometimes it's nice to just ask for, I request a benevolent outcome for $500 or $1,000. A lot of times that will come through for you. You can request benevolent outcomes at bingo. I won half of a full pot that was like, I think it was $8,000, and I got half of that by requesting benevolent outcomes. So, and I've had other people that have told me that they have won the bingo pot by requesting benevolent outcomes. So keep that in mind for you bingo players. And also, you can request benevolent outcomes for dangerous places and times. So if you're walking down the street and you feel very uncomfortable, you can say, I request a most benevolent outcome for my walk to wherever I'm going, or whatever it happens to be. You can request a benevolent outcome for your safety, and it does work, and even works for tornadoes. I had a lady that told me she requested a benevolent outcome for a tornado that was headed right for them, and the tornado lifted right up and went over the house as she had just gotten her children and herself into the basement. So these benevolent outcomes are very, very powerful. Now, before I leave, let me mention a few things. I mentioned that I have signs on my website. Now, my website is www.thegentleWayBook.com, where you can find my weekly newsletters. They're all archived there, and you can sign up for my weekly newsletter. I have a weekly blog that has nothing but MBO and BP stories in it. And I have sample chapters of all my books. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and all over the place. Please join me again in my telepathic world.